also known as COVID-19. During today's meeting, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa explained the present situation in the country.
We must all act responsibly and intelligently during a crisis like this. The general public must not panic. This is not a complicated matter. The situation is not such that we have to quarantine the entire country. I've been thinking about this matter for the past 2 days. I have discussed this matter with the army as well. We have restricted arrivals from many countries in order to prevent the virus from entering Sri Lanka. Since the 10th of March, arrivals from South Korea and Italy have been sent to quarantine centers. We are also in the process of monitoring arrivals from the other countries. They all need to be quarantined, either self-quarantine inside their houses or in separate quarantine centers. The Royal Thomian match took place without taking heed of what we said. I spoke to Venerable Thera today and asked if I could meet him. The Thera said that he will not be able to do so as the Thera's driver was taking a group of people to Adams Peak this morning. Therefore, is there any purpose of declaring closures? There was a lady employed at the Ministry of Foreign Relations. Her husband is a gem businessman who had returned from Germany. As soon as she was tested positive for the virus, I informed the intelligence units to inquire into the husband as he would definitely be affected as well. He wasn't answering the telephone. He has gone to 3 hospitals and had been very irresponsible despite being an educated person. I instructed to file a case regarding this. The others should learn a lesson. We came across a person who was identified with the virus in Gaul. When we inquired regarding him, we learned that he was a resident of Kuliapitia. We asked the entire family of this patient to be quarantined. However, he never told us that he went to visit his father in Gaul. When I analyzed those who have been affected, it is clear as to how they had contracted the disease. The virus had not spread to a large extent. Therefore, if we quarantine these people, we can easily control this situation.
The President also expressed his views regarding the 3-day holiday.
It was 11:50 p.m. when we arrived at a decision to extend the public holidays for 3 days. We extended the holiday for all sectors except the essential services such as health. I feel that we should take the relevant action during this period. Now the weekend is approaching, therefore we can decide to extend the holiday until Friday and decide on further action. However, we also have to keep in mind that the state sector needs to function, otherwise we will have to face more problems.
The President also explained the government's stance with regard to the general election.
The district offices have been kept open as nominations need to be submitted. The previous government had not submitted a national budget by the time I was elected as president. We were able to form a minority government. As a result of this, we could not put forward a budget and pass it in parliament. A government is needed for me to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted on me by the public. Otherwise, it is difficult for us. How can we allocate funds at times such as the outbreak of the coronavirus? We are unable to obtain the required funds in a proper manner. If we postpone the election, I will have to put forward a supplementary estimate to Parliament. That will not be passed. Then we will have to dissolve Parliament again. We cannot do this. That is why the process of handing over nominations should take place. Once that is done, the chairman of the National Elections Commission can decide whether the election should be postponed.
ඊට පස්සේ ඡන්ද දිනය අපිට කල් ගවන්නට අවශ්‍ය නම් ඡන්ද කොමසාරිස්තුමාට ඒක කරන්නට පුළුවන්.
Views were expressed on suspending the entry of flights.
බාරෙන් වල කටාවලයි ඊයේ රාත්‍රියේ තමයි නැවතුණා. අද වෙනකොට 200 ගාන 250 ඊයේ රාත්‍රියේ විතරක් ආවා.
එහෙම කරන්න බෑ අපිට සීමිත.
That cannot be done. We have limited resources. We cannot control this situation by allowing thousands of people to enter the country. This should stop immediately. India has suspended the entry of flights from all countries. Therefore, we cannot allow this to happen. We should suspend the entry of flights as soon as possible. Otherwise, we cannot cope up with the situation.
පුළුවන් තරම් ඉක්මනට සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම මේක නවතින්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට cope up කරන්න බෑ.
20 million passengers.
නෑ නෑ මේක ගැන තර්ක කරන්න දෙයක්.
There are no conflicting opinions on that. This should be completely stopped. There is no point in discussing this.
We have to take that decision. We have to take that decision. We have to stop.
For the latest developments on COVID-19, we now cross over to Chaturanga for the latest. Chaturanga, over to you.
Thank you, Joel. A short while ago, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addressed the nation. He spoke about and requested all to rally around him to form a strong government. He said relief packages to support people from coronavirus will be provided. The maximum price of dal to be 65 rupees and the maximum price of tin canned fish to be 100 rupees. Moratorium on bank interests for 6 months and limit 4% interest on loans to be taken for capital expenditures. The President addressed the nation for 13 minutes and we will be the full speech is now available online on our platforms as well. The President addressed the nation a short while ago. Now, while that is the case, it was announced this evening that the number of Sri Lankans who contracted the coronavirus had risen to 43 today, and there were 15 more patients being tested positive for the virus. This was of course announced during the evening hours of today when there was a press conference held with the relevant stakeholders, and this was confirmed by the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasinghe. The number now stands at 43.
As of today, we got to know that there are 6 more individuals who got positive for COVID-19. One of them is his wife of a tour guide who was diagnosed some time ago. And then also one who has come from Germany, and another one from UK, and also one person from Kalani area, another person from Marville area, and a young person from Udukampola area who has arrived from Qatar a few days ago.
According to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases, the tour guide who contracted the virus, the first ever case reported in the country, is showing signs of getting better. He was the only person who was in a critical condition among the other reported patients. 27 patients who tested positive for the virus were receiving treatment at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases as of this afternoon, and one of them is reported to be an Indian national. A 13-year-old female is also among the newly confirmed patients. She is reported to be the daughter of the second person who contracted the virus in Sri Lanka. Based on the instructions given by the President, a unit similar to the one at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases has been set up at the Valikanda Base Hospital in Polonnaruwa to admit patients.
We are working on Valikanda treatment, COVID-19 treatment center, which is a base hospital, and we have vacated the hospital to an adjacent building. And the Sri Lanka Army, on our technical advice, they are improving the infrastructure so that the infection doesn't go across from patients to the staff. For this purpose, we are going to support the director of the Polonnaruwa General Hospital in very many manners, for example, logistics, vehicles and manpower.
Acting Chief of Defence Staff and the Commander of the Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, was appointed as the Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19. The centre has been established to certify that steps will be taken to manage and sanitize, while proper coordination is being carried out between health services and other services.
So far, 16 quarantine centres have been set up across the country. 2,258 persons are being quarantined at these centres. We should unite and move forward together at this time. Statistics show that between 1,500 to 2,000 persons who arrived in the country during the period starting from the 1st to the 9th of this month have not been quarantined. Most of these people are in the Puttlam district. Therefore, we request the people of Puttlam to abide by the directives issued by the Ministry of Health. If this disease spreads, we might have to take a decision that would impact the entire area.
So if you are a foreigner, if you have landed Sri Lanka from the 1st of March to 15th of March 2020, so you must register at our registration centers, or otherwise you can use the website, you can use the email that we have introduced. It is lahd@police.lk.
While those are some of the measures that have been taken here at home to stop the spread of the coronavirus here at home, there were other measures taken as well. The Civil Aviation Authority announced that according to instructions received from Sri Lankan health authorities, all international airports in Sri Lanka will be closed for operation of inward international commercial passenger flights with effect from 4 a.m. on the 19th of March 2020 until 11:59 p.m. on the 25th of March 2020. The closure will be reviewed by the Sri Lankan authorities.
During the above-mentioned restricted period, the following will be permitted: aircraft departures with passengers originating from Colombo, stopovers, transit passengers or visiting tourists. In addition, emergency diversions to BIA, freight operations and humanitarian flights to BIA, technical landings at BIA, inbound ferry flights without passengers at BIA will also be allowed. Airlines are strictly instructed to follow the above instructions.
With regard to the coronavirus outbreak globally, we have to take a look at the details that are available to the general public, and these are real-time data that is available for you and I to understand properly about this situation. The total number of confirmed cases around the world stands at 185,067. The total number of deaths that have been reported stands at 7,330, and the total recovered number stands at 80,236. While this is the case, if we analyze the situation around the world, we can understand very clearly how this works. Now, here we can see the situation in mainland China on one graph and the situation in the world through the second graph. If you draw your attention to this side of the screen, this curve denotes the number of patients in mainland China, and as you can see, from the 20th of January until the 9th, between the 9th and the 14th of February, there is a very normal increase in terms of the number of patients, and during this time frame, especially here at this location, you can see the number of patients increasing and then goes into a situation where the line is like this. But the graph around the world, as in other locations, is slightly different. The line or the number of patients stands very low at the moment, while this situation in China seems to be easing out. While the situation in China is normalizing, you can see the situation in the world rising, and at this point where we are right now, around the 15th of March, you can see an exponential increase in the number of patients. Now, we have to also remember about the situation in Italy, South Korea and countries like Iran as well, with a high number of patients as well. Again, the number in mainland China can be viewed here, and the number in other locations can also be viewed here. And if you can see, there is a third line that can be very clearly, a third graph, a third plot that can be very clearly seen in the middle, and that plot here denotes the number of people who have recovered from the coronavirus. And as you can see, that number also keeps on increasing from this point onwards, and it's almost surpassing the number of patients that are seen in mainland China and around the world as well. If you take a look at the data that is available further for the general public to properly understand this situation, this denotes the number of people around the world who are confirmed by region. Now, of course, this virus originated originally from the Hubei province in Wuhan, China, and the number stands at 81,058 in China. Second country with the highest number of patients confirmed being Italy, followed by Iran and then Spain and South Korea. These three countries, Italy, Iran and South Korea, the Sri Lankan authorities too are paying a very high level of attention. And this point, if you can draw your attention over here, we have this point to be the number where the highest number of patients have been reported, and this is marked as the 16th of March 2020, and on the 16th of March is the highest number of cases that have been reported. So while we take a look at all of these data, we are bringing out this data to you not to encourage you to be afraid or panic regarding the situation, but to have a proper understanding so that this is the data that is available. Now, I told you about Iran, South Korea and Italy. If I am to draw your attention to another curve, that is the total number of cases in Italy, you can very clearly see that there is a spike after, especially after the 27th to the 29th February mark, especially from the beginning of March. You can see the number of confirmed cases going up. Now, if you analyze this situation against what we saw here at home, we can see a similar trend. You are aware that the number of patients in Sri Lanka has gone beyond 40, and this has happened in a couple of days. Now, especially today, 15 people were identified, and if you can take a look at the graph of the number of confirmed cases in Sri Lanka that you saw earlier on in the bulletin. I'm sure our producers can put it up for you on the screen. You can see that it is similar to this graph that you see on this situation in the Italian map as well. A similar curve, a similar graph can be observed with regard to the Sri Lankan situation. Again, this is not to encourage people to be afraid or be panic regarding this situation, but to have a proper understanding of the situation at the moment. Now, while this is the case around the world and at home, several people who are known to be celebrities are also in sometimes self-quarantine, and sometimes we heard about the incident pertaining to Tom Hanks earlier last week. Today we also have another news pertaining to Idris Elba. Here's what happened to him.
Hey, what's up, guys? So look, this morning I got some test results back for coronavirus and it came back positive. I got tested because I realized I was exposed to someone who had also tested positive. I found out last Friday that they were tested positive. I quarantined myself and got a test immediately. This is serious, you know? Now's the time to really think about social distancing, washing your hands. Beyond that, there are people out there who aren't showing symptoms and that can easily spread it, okay? So now's a real time to be really vigilant about washing your hands.
Now, if you want to keep updated about the situation, if you want to go through these details, information that is available, you can also go into our website www.newsfirst.lk, where you will be able to clearly understand the situation as per the data available. Now, the epidemiology unit of our country, the Ministry of Health, had put together a map where you can figure out and identify where the cases have been reported, and in terms of Sri Lanka, the details pertaining to the situation in Sri Lanka and the latest updates, emergency contact numbers and a timeline of events can also be viewed here. As we mentioned earlier, the full speech made by the President addressing the nation can also be viewed on our website at the moment. Now, to keep you updated about the world situation, we spoke to several journalists, and in fact we are now able to cross over to someone we spoke from the United States of America. Let's hear what the situation there looks like. That was a journalist joining us from the United States to explain the situation of the township where he is at. Now, coming back to the situation here at home, here are some of the views that were expressed by the Government Medical Officers Association.
One of our recommendations was the immediate closure of all entry points to the country. Further, the situation in the country should be assessed on Thursday, and depending on the situation, Friday should be declared a holiday as well. There are around 1,500 people in self-isolation apart from those at quarantine centers. There are 234 people in Vennapur alone who arrived from Italy. There are around 120 in Mahawava, more than 100 in Chilau, 76 in Dankotua and 70 in Nathandia. However, we can't locate these people. At that time, several recommendations were made to impose police curfew to those areas and to utilize the army and police to ensure potential coronavirus patients remained in their homes. We also pitched the idea of deploying officials to travel from house to house, identifying those who have associated coronavirus patients and potential patients. The President responded positively to our recommendations. Tourists from Malaysia and Australia are still roaming freely in our country. This should change. Many doctors and health officials at many OPDs and pharmacies still haven't been provided face masks. Therefore, these should be addressed immediately, and we have named several locations across the country for these people to seek help from if they suffer from symptoms similar to the coronavirus.
The Public Health Inspectors Association also convened a media briefing today.
2,572 passengers who came to Sri Lanka from high-risk countries before the 5th of March are being quarantined at their homes for a period of 14 days. The process will be done on the day after tomorrow, but it has to be noted that they are in a risk zone till the day the procedure ends. We discovered 3,460 passengers who came from abroad and they are being quarantined at their homes. A serious issue has arisen with the system of exchanging information between the airport and the field staff. Coronavirus has made its rounds in 2020. Therefore, the Minister of Health has to take a decision on an order based on the Act. A proper system should be introduced. Director General of Health Services issued a circular on the 24th of February this year to curb this disease. The fifth sentence of that circular says it is not necessary that all for the public health inspectors to wear face masks. There, a problem surfaces as to why this circular was issued in the first place. Also, we got to know yesterday that when suspicious patients are directed to the hospitals located at the terminals, no steps have been taken to treat these patients. The latest incident of this series is that the group that were in a risky situation were asked to register at the nearest police station. Your respective media institutions reported that all the people we quarantined at their homes have gone to police stations. OICs call and ask us as to what they should do. Then we replied and said that we did not say that and it was ordered by the IGP. The quarantine process in many areas ended today, but all the people who underwent that procedure had gone to the police stations. From this, it is clear that the IGP is at fault, but no collective action has been taken in this situation.
මේ ඒකාබද්ධව මේ කටයුත්ත කරන්නේ නැහැ.
You're watching Primetime News. Now, meanwhile, several political parties emphasize the need to focus on the prevailing situation and to postpone the general elections.
Meanwhile, several parties emphasize the need to focus on the prevailing situation and to postpone the general election. The presidential election has been postponed in Georgia. The general election in Syria and the provincial elections in the UK have been postponed. The election to choose the mayor of London has been postponed, along with the provincial elections in Andhra Pradesh, India. Discussions are underway to decide whether the US presidential elections should be postponed. All these countries have postponed their elections by thinking about the people. The leaders of this country are not thinking on behalf of the people, although this is a burning issue across the world. They are focused on contesting the election and obtaining a two-third majority in parliament. This is a very sad situation. The coronavirus should not be considered as a joke. This is a serious issue. The entire country should be quarantined. At least today, arrive at a decision to postpone the election by thinking about the lives of the people.
The virus is spreading in Sri Lanka. Therefore, there is no method to pull ourselves out of this problem. We should unite and take the necessary steps to mitigate the spread of the virus. Recently, I requested the government to draw attention towards collectively implementing a common plan in the country. I made a request to the chairman of the National Election Commission as well. I requested the Prime Minister and the Speaker to immediately summon a meeting with political parties and civil groups. The Easter Sunday, Ramazan and the Sinhala and Tamil New Year festivals are approaching. At the same time, the date for the general election has also been decided. Therefore, there is a higher risk of the disease to spread among the people. That is why we should implement a plan to curb the spread of this disease.
It is an important responsibility to prepare the country in the event of a worse situation. A Chinese woman was first diagnosed with the virus in Sri Lanka. She left the country after recuperating. They celebrated this moment. The Tourism Ministry also issued a video stating that Sri Lanka has not been affected due to the virus in a bid to attract more tourist arrivals. We are now facing the dangerous consequences of these actions. The government should lock down the country and carry out a thorough quarantining process. The time has come to do so. However, we are passing through this phase using certain short-term remedies. If we keep delaying the lockdown, we will not be able to curb the spread of the virus. There is a large conference hall and the Mattala airport in the Hambantota district which outbeats the facilities in other districts. I feel that a massive quarantine center should be set up in this area for all those arriving from overseas for a period of 2 weeks. The need of the hour is to protect the country. We saw that a flight which arrived from China was allowed to depart from the country without any inspection. It was not quarantined. Now a statement is issued calling upon all those who arrived from Italy and other countries between the 1st to the 15th of March to inform the police regarding their arrival, failing which they would be arrested. By the time they do this, the virus has already begun spreading. They are advising to avoid public gathering. But we saw on TV that Sudarshini Fernanda Pillai is conducting a meeting. Dinesh Gunawardena was seen on the road with a group of people. From whom are these laws being imposed? The government is using the coronavirus for their political advantage. If the government is not doing so, the general elections can be postponed. They know that there is a crisis within the UNP and the 2 nomination lists are going to be submitted. Therefore, they are trying to allow this to happen and then postpone the elections. If this happens, the nomination list, which were submitted separately, will be used for the election. If the people and the political parties are calling for the election to be postponed, extend the deadline for accepting nominations. Do not engage in politics. The Frontline Socialist Party today handed over a letter to the Election Commission chairman requesting the election not to be held in view of the current situation in the country.
We would like to emphasize that this is not an opportunity to fulfill their political needs and to consolidate power. We strongly say that this situation has affected everyone in the world. By eliminating all class differences and working together responsibly, we can overcome this situation. But the government is neglecting that.
Meanwhile, former parliamentarian Sujeeva Senasinghe met the chairman of the Elections Commission on behalf of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya.
I've seen some politicians asking to hold the elections. We requested that the days that we missed be granted to us. We don't need anything else, and the commission agreed on that. If we can get rid of the coronavirus, the election can be held anytime. What we are saying is what is important is not the elections or politics. People need to live in this country.
The deadline to accept applications for postal voting was scheduled to end at midnight today. However, Chairman of the National Elections Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, today said that the final date will be notified later.
Although the deadline to accept postal voting applications was scheduled to end at midnight today, the postal voting applications which would be received in the coming days will be considered as those received by today. This is because the government has declared a special holiday on the 17th of March, 18th and 19th of March. The final date for accepting postal vote applications will be announced in due course after considering the steps that would be taken by the government in the future to combat COVID-19.
More news comes your way after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching Primetime News, still in news here at home. Now, buses and trains were disinfected today as well, owing to the spread of the coronavirus.
Trains were disinfected at the Dimligoda railway yard.
Trains come here after dropping off passengers. It is our duty to disinfect these trains and ensure that it is free of germs when it departs for the second journey. This is what the railway's general manager has instructed us to do.
Meanwhile, buses were disinfected at private bus stands in Bastian Mawatha. Buses were also disinfected at the Kadruwala bus stand in Polonnaruwa with the assistance of the Army and the Sri Lanka Transport Board. This is the manner in which buses were disinfected in Matara.
In some best news, the Sri Lanka's rupee ended weaker at 186.66, 182.58 to the US dollar on Tuesday when compared to Friday's close of 185.09, 181.21. Markets were closed on Monday.
The bond yields were marginally down today, following the central bank cut rates by 25 basis points yesterday in an emergency move. Dealers said the reserve ratio cut of 100 basis points may add another 50 billion rupees in excess liquidity into the banking system. The stock market closed today for the second straight session.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said it is closely monitoring global and domestic market developments, and further measures will be taken as necessary to mitigate the economic impact of the pandemic. This statement was made following the central bank's decision to reduce policy interest rates by 25 basis points and the statutory reserve ratio by 1 percentage point yesterday. The governor of the central bank expressed the following views in this regard today.
We have requested all financial institutions led by licensed commercial banks to pass on to the market the full benefit of, first, the cumulative reduction of 75 basis points in policy interest rates thus far during the year, and second, the reduced cost of funds through the reduction of SRR without any delay to ensure that those who are in need of urgent support receive the required timely assistance. It is good for financial institutions to keep in mind that the revival of business activity in the country is to their own self-interest. We have also requested financial institutions to refrain from engaging in speculative activity which could lead to panic in the financial markets. We are working closely with the government to ensure coordinated fiscal and monetary policy responses to mitigate the economic impact of the pandemic. The well-tested business continuity arrangements of the central bank will be triggered as and when required to prevent any disruption to cash and electronic transactions of the general public and ensure the timely settlement of liabilities of the government and the central bank. We are closely monitoring global and domestic market developments, and further measures will be taken as necessary to mitigate the economic impact of the pandemic.
The International Monetary Fund, issuing a statement in response to the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, urges central banks worldwide to provide sizable support for the affected people and firms during the COVID-19 pandemic. The IMF further said that it is ready to mobilize its $1 trillion lending capacity to help its membership fight the COVID-19 pandemic and its widespread human, economic and financial costs.
The statement added, global coordination and cooperation are crucial at this point, and politics must be designed to ensure that the poor don't get left further behind. Policy responses need to be tailored to existing administrative systems and capacity. Where administrative systems are weak and policy measures cannot be effectively targeted, broader measures may be needed for an effective response. Attention needs to be given to delivering assistance to hard-to-reach regions and communities. Many members are now at risk and need support because of weak health systems, limited policy space, and exposure to the large terms of trade shocks and financial spillovers seen in recent days. The IMF goes on to say, with the crisis evolving quickly, the fund recognizes that speed is of essence. To this end, planning is also underway to ensure that if the crisis deepens, additional contingency measures will be activated rapidly.
In more news this evening, the head of the World Health Organization said during a press briefing in Geneva that coronavirus is the defining global crisis of our time. The head also provided the following advice.
And we cannot stop this pandemic if we don't know who is infected. We have a simple message for all countries: test, test, test. So we advise countries to stick to testing, and from there, of course, all the steps that they need to do. And we advise countries to stick to containment strategy, because we believe that this epidemics, this pandemics, or this virus is controllable. I think the support we're getting for COVID-19, the response is really encouraging. At the initial stage, we were a bit worried, but now we're getting almost close to the funding we asked for, and we expect more support. And the announcement from US is really significant, and we will expect actually more countries to contribute. But we're almost.
With that, we head on to a short break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. More from the news this evening. Former MP Buddhika Pathirana signed nomination papers this morning to contest the upcoming general election.
Buddhika Patharana will contest from the Mathura district under the Samagi Jana Balavegya. Buddhika Patharana signed the nomination paper at the party headquarters today, amidst the presence of the leader of the Samagi Jana Balavegya, Sajith Premadasa. Buddhika Patharana also celebrates his birthday today. After signing the nomination papers, the former MP attended a media briefing today, where he expressed his views on the spread of COVID-19. What if an employee of the government printers had contracted the virus? Would this not affect the rest? A separate pencil cannot be given to everyone when casting their vote. What if the virus spreads through this pencil? The President and Cabinet must look into this matter. I propose that the opposition leader and all leaders representing other political parties should join discussions in this regard. Many views are being expressed with regard to the spread of the virus. All of this should be taken into consideration. All political parties registered with the National Elections Commission should hold a meeting and reach a decision in this regard. We are ready to extend our support. If the government says they are prepared to hold elections, yes, we are prepared as well. However, at this point, we must consider all of these matters.
Certain political parties submitted their nominations to the National Elections Commission today, while several candidates signed the nomination papers.
The signing of nominations at the headquarters of the Samagi Jana Balavegya began today. Former United National Party chairman Kabir Hashim signed the nomination papers on behalf of the Samagi Jana Balavegya for the Kegal district. Former parliamentarian Ashoka Besingha signed the nomination papers for the Kurunegala district, while former MPs Harshana Rajakaruna and Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca signed the nomination list for the Gampaha district. Mayantha Disanayake signed the nomination papers for the Kandy district, while former parliamentarian P. Harrison signed the list for the Anuradhapura district. Mano Ganesan signed the papers for the Colombo district, while the papers for the Putlam district were signed by Hector Apuhami. Ravindra Samaravira signed the nomination list for the Badula district. Hirunika Premachanda, Hesha Vithanage and Chandima Gamage also signed the nomination papers today. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna handed over its nomination list for the Hambantota district.
නමුත් මේක ඡන්දය කල් දැමීම නෙවෙයි අපි ආරක්ෂා වීම තම තමන් ආරක්ෂා වීම නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ තීරණය කළා වෙනම ඉල්ලන්න. මේ ගැන ඔබතුමා මොකද කියන්නේ? එයාලගේ කැමැත්ත.
That is their wish. The number of nominations are allocated based on the percentage of votes they obtained in those electorates. Accordingly, they might receive 1 or 2 nominations or nothing. They have to be content with what they get.
ලද දෙයින් සතුටු වුණොත් තමයි ඒක මම හිතන්නේ.
අමුතුවෙන් දැන් කතාවක් කියනවා දිස්ත්‍රික් නායකත්වයේ හරහා විරෝධතාවක් කෙල්ලලා දිනවා කියලා වියත්මක කණ්ඩායම.
වියත්මක හරහා අපි දෙන්නෙක්.
2 of us are from the Vietmaga movement. People who have been involved in politics should be there in the Vietmaga movement. We have no problem if there are people like that. Otherwise, these individuals should be popular among the public.
පෞද්ගලිකවවත් ජනතාව අතර ප්‍රසිද්ධියක් ලබා ගන්නවා. එහෙම නැත්නම්
The SLPP's nomination list for the Kalutara district was handed over by its leader Rohita Abegunawardena.
කාගවත් පක්ෂයකට අපි කිසිම අසාධාරණයක් කළා නැහැ. සීමිත ඉඩක් තියෙන්නේ ඒකෙදී පක්ෂයට ලබා දීපු කෝටා එක ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
Former Minister Mervyn Silva signed the United National Party's nomination papers for the Anuradhapura district at the party headquarters in Sirikota.
I won the electorate of King Dutugamunu's father. I won the Kalania electorate, which is the area of King Dutugamunu's mother, by obtaining 165,000 votes. Who kept the Rajapaksas in power? It was my uncle K.C. Silva, who spent money for them in Beliatta. Today they are attacking me. I wish to ask them to resume activities from the place where King Dutugamunu stopped. I will not campaign by race or ethnicity in the Madhavatsya area for the Putlam district.
The Jatika Jana Balavegya's nomination papers for the Kandy district was handed over by district leader K.D. Lal Kantha today. The Jatika Jana Balavegya also handed over its nominations for the Kurunegala district.
Coronavirus.
We feel that the decision to dissolve parliament at a time when the coronavirus has caused fear in the country was not the right thing to do. The president has the power to reconvene parliament. It is clear that the National Elections Commission will postpone the election once the deadline for accepting nominations concludes. From that point onwards, the parliament will be defunct. At this time, what should be done is to protect the country from the coronavirus, instead of focusing on the election. People are dividing themselves over the election. If this is not done, we will not be able to control the spread of the epidemic.
එක මිටකට කැටි කරන ඒ තත්ත්වයක් නිර්මාණය කරන්න ඕනකම තියෙනවා.
The SLFP signed nomination papers today in order to contest the Jaffna district solidly.
General Secretary Dasiri Jayasekara signed the nomination list at the SLFP headquarters earlier today. Yesterday we reached a decision to contest as the SLFP under the symbol of the hand, and now we are implementing it. Dasiri Jayasekara will enter separately just for Kurunegala. We have Duminda in Anuradhapura. We have already notified all districts to arrive at the party headquarters and to extend their support to this decision. We were constantly disappointed at his so-called deal politics. His plan was not for the betterment of the party, but his personal gain. No one is willing to follow his leadership. He agreed to it. Nomination papers for Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa have already been signed. We might not field anyone for those two districts. Following several discussions at the party headquarters, the political council of the party convened under the patronage of Maithripala Sirisena at his official residence. There were issues with 3 districts, namely Kurunegala, Gampaha and Anuradhapura, since we did not have enough candidates. We spoke to Basil Rajapaksa regarding the matter, and now we are waiting for a response from their faction. We intend to reach a final decision today. Since the symbol of the hand has entered into an alliance, there is an issue when entering candidates to contest if they are not contesting under the symbol of the hand.
Meanwhile, Tissa Thanayaka was appointed as the national organizer of the Samagi Jana Balawegya. This was discussed at a press conference held at party headquarters this afternoon.
I requested him to let go of his election affairs and accept the position of the national organizer. We are hoping him to be elected through the national list, but he is not willing to come through any list. He is hoping to contest from the Kandy district and win. But because it is difficult to bring both these things into light, we decided to give this opportunity and responsibility to him to strengthen our movement on a national level. Harin Fernando will be appointed as the campaign head of our movement.
අපේ කැම්පේන් හෙඩ් හැටියට කැම්පේන් එකේ ප්‍රධානියා හැටියට අපේ හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මැතිතුමා කටයුතු කරනවා. අපි දැන් නාම යෝජනාවට සූදානම් වෙනවා.
We are getting ready for the nominations. We will carry out our political affairs after the nominations are announced and considering the situation of the country. We do not know whether our journey will take a different path, but we are hoping to adapt to any change and go forward.
ව්‍යාපාරය ඒ අනුව සූදානම් කරලා ජයග්‍රහයි තැනකට ගෙනියන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවායි කියලා මතක් කරන්න කැමතියි. රට රකින්න අපේ විරුවා මව්බිමට පෙමින් සැමද එහෙමනේ.
That was played at his political stage. Today he is saying that he asked not to play matches and go to Adam's Peak during this time.
දැන් කියනවා බය වෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ.
Also he says that no need to fear from the virus coming from outside, but let's try to curb the virus on home soil. And he is trying to go to the election with the 2/3 majority. What a wonderful country. The virus starts showing symptoms after 14 days. We do not know as to how many people exactly have contracted this virus. As a country, our people are more valuable than an election. National security is the security of the people. I think there is something left for us to think about here. We ask him not to take this slightly. You should have taken action to shut down the 2 airports and the port immediately at that time. Please ask from your heart what the country is in need right now.
With that, we wrap this edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for stopping by. More news follows on our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. Stay safe. Good night.